I'm Nevan, and this is my story.
I grew up with my mother and father believing in God, encouraging us to be active in our faith, and taking us to church every week on Sundays. But for my family and for me, I never really considered my faith something to be a part of every aspect of my life. When I was 7 years old, I was a part of something called Joy Club. It's very similar to like Awana or some of those other groups for kids. I'm really glad that my parents allowed me to be a part of that, because what that allowed me to do is hear the gospel for the first time. You see, at my church, we went to the Methodist church in town. And the Methodist church in our town didn't really preach the gospel, didn't pay attention to Jesus or what he's done. But thankfully, at Joy Club, that was preached, and it was made very clear to me, even as a young kid. And so at 7 years old, I prayed the prayer to accept Jesus into my heart. And I know now that it's not some magical prayer. And was that actually the moment that I was saved? I don't know. I know now that I believe that to be true in my heart, and I've confessed it with my mouth. And I know that Jesus has transformed my life and transformed my heart. But that, I think, was definitely a pivotal moment in my life. I had kind of stopped going to Joy Club when I was 5th and 6th grade. I just didn't think it was something that cool kids did. And you can bet I was far from a cool kid. But I definitely, wanted to seem cool. And so I stopped doing it and started finding other things to do with that time. Something else happened coming out of elementary that definitely discouraged me in a lot of ways. When I was 10, I think, my parents sat us down in the living room and told us that they were separating. And for us, that was kind of crazy, especially for me. Probably my siblings might have saw it coming a little more than I did. But I had always seen my parents as that unshakable couple that were always going to be together no matter what. And while classmates' parents were getting divorced, I just kind of held on to that hope and that assurance that my parents were never going to get divorced. And so when that kind of announcement came, I was in shock. I could not believe it at all. There was a lot that I didn't know as to why that happened, but at the time, I was just this heartbroken kid whose parents were about to split up. So the next year was really tough. My mom wasn't home a whole lot. She had moved in with her boyfriend across town, and basically she and Dad had been distant for a long time. We just didn't know it, or at least, again, I didn't, being 10 years old. But yeah, she had gotten into this other relationship, and so she moved in with her boyfriend across town, and my dad was very protective. My dad just led the house in a way where it was his way or it didn't happen, which was very egotistical of him. And again, I didn't realize this at the time because this is what I grew up with. That's important because when my parents did separate, my mom did move across town, my dad wouldn't let us go to her house across town. He didn't want us around her boyfriend, he didn't want us in that environment. He wanted to protect us and had this idea that he was doing that by not allowing us over there. And so I really didn't see my mom much at all for a year. And that was really tough too. But throughout that whole year, again, I'm this naive 10-year-old kid who doesn't know any of the things going on in the background. I'm praying every single night, Lord, please bring my parents back together. And so, I guess for me, when I was called into the school office and told that my dad had been arrested and sent to prison, that day I felt like my world was turned upside down. In a lot of ways it was. And the whole thing seemed like kind of a nightmare. And I don't mean that like in the cliche, oh, it was a nightmare. I mean like literally it felt like I was gonna wake up and things were gonna be back to normal. But obviously that didn't happen. I'd grown up my whole life in that house with my dad as the head of the household. My mom as the person that I saw as the safe parent, as the person I saw that I could go to and not be as worried about what might happen and any repercussions. And then my siblings, and we were all just trying to get through it together. And I loved my dad. I never liked him. Not as a kid, I saw him as my dad, and I thought that was how all dads were. My dad got 30 years, and so to this day he's still in prison. As an 11-year-old kid, I didn't understand why. Again, I had prayed fervently for a year that the Lord would bring my parents back together, and it didn't happen. In fact, the opposite happened. My dad was completely removed from my life. I just didn't get it. I just didn't get why my world needed to be turned upside down. But slowly I kind of started to come around to the fact that maybe God had something in mind. And it took a long time, and it wasn't until maybe 5 years ago that I realized that this ended up being a good thing. The foundation of my life was something temporary. It was sand, basically. And when all of a sudden that was gone, and so I came to this understanding finally that my foundation had to be something permanent. And yeah, that's the Lord Jesus. And there have been other struggles in my life. Like this is the big one. But there's been a lot of things in my life that have shaken me down, that have made me question and doubt and worry, and none of them have been able to pull me away from the Lord. Don't get this twisted. That's not me. Like, that's all the Lord. He put people in my life growing up that poured into me, spoke truth into my life. That is what got me where I am now. It's not anything that I did or didn't do. Could I have made different choices and ended up in a different place? Yes. But the way that the Lord allowed those other people to speak into my life and the heart that He gave me, that is why I am who I am today. So where does that leave me today? Well, I have had 4 amazing years at Wayne State College. God has a community here, and I can't express this enough. It is one of the most unique things I think anybody who's been a part of it has ever been a part of. Don't take it for granted. Don't take this community for granted. And don't take your college years for granted. Your college years are some of the most formidable times of your life. And I can tell you, and anybody who knew me freshman year can tell you, that the work God can do in 4 years is amazing. Because He turns someone who is very focused on himself, focused on what he wanted, to someone who's able to serve Him in ministry and who's able to lead others in ministry and disciple others. And again, that's not a testament to me, that's a testament to the work that He's done in putting people in my life these last 4 years, and speaking to me, of course, through His Word. So I don't know exactly, nobody does. Nobody knows what the Lord has for them, all right? But I'm excited. A lot of things are going to come and go in your life. Even some things that have always been constants in your life. You know, things happen. One reason or another, those things could change. Those people could be taken out of our lives. Maybe it's a job that we love. Whatever it is that's been a constant in your life that you just can't imagine your life without, you got to understand that could ultimately be gone. And you got to know how you would move forward if that were to happen. You have to know that Christ is your foundation. That at the end of the night when you lay your head on that pillow, it doesn't matter what happened that day, because you know that tomorrow you're going to wake up, you're going to be a child of God, and you're going to find a way to allow Him to work through you that day. This is the story of how Jesus has changed my life. Has He changed yours? Gotta sneeze at some point. Alright, I grew up in a home where my mother and father would, my mother and father. That clock's gonna drive me actual bonkers.
Alright.
Thanks.
Oh, anytime.
Maybe it's a job that we love, or whatever it is, a skill that you have. I'm gonna keep giving examples, apparently. If you take one thing away from this, know that I was a kid once, and my mouth's so dry. Yeah, I think I've already told you all you need to know. If you have any questions, hit me up.
Nevan Hoffman at gmail.com.
Nevan Hoffman at gmail.com. Don't spam me now. Don't give that out to anybody. I'm not gonna add that because people get. You know what I just realized?
What?
There's something missing here, Justin. What could
Kaylee?
besides her?
A teleprompter?
I'll give you a hint.
Mics.
Yeah.
You know what I was even thinking?
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, we'll just use
we were
the
gonna
audio
say
from
that.
the flipping phone.
I don't want to use the audio from the phone.